Substance abuse and mental illness are prevalent among the homeless population. Lack of access to treatment and support services further complicates the situation. Correspondent Jason Motlagh heads to California, which has the highest number of homeless people of any U.S. state.
Community and solidarity and like a mutual care for one another, regardless of your ability to participate or where you come from, who you are. These spaces organically develop under the system that we have now for a reason, because people need mutual support. When you're previously incarcerated or when you have some mental health or substance use issues, that's going to bar you from getting a job, holding down a job, getting housing, holding down housing. There's all these like things that are set in place. So you need a space where you can work through those things at your own pace.
But time is running out for the Wood Street community. Earlier this year, the city of Oakland ordered the camp to be shut down to make way for a new apartment complex. Residents were issued an eviction notice with grim alternatives.
We've really been robbed of a choice in this situation. The city says in all their media that like, oh, we're going to build housing here. We've provided a space down the road. It scatters people apart. It robs them from their support systems, and then they just have to trust these people that they're just meeting who are supposedly going to provide services. But as we've seen, those services ultimately don't really end up getting provided, and people end up back out here at the end of the day.
Jazz and other residents insist the city must create more affordable and communal long-term housing.
If you look at the actual plans for what they're going to build here, it's going to maybe be 10 units tops that are going to be affordable. And the rest of it's all going to be market rate, the same that they're building all around us. Because if it becomes low to no income housing, it'll bring their other rents down. All the other properties they own, the rent will have to go down. It will devalue those properties, and they don't want that to happen, even though it wouldn't hurt them in the long run.
Displacement of these communities, the eviction of people out of the streets with no real alternative, in our view, is not only a violation of human rights, but also a violation of the Constitution. And people are here saying, no, enough. We've been pushed enough. People who are here have been pushed here from all over other places, out of the inner city, out of the parks, out of all the places they were. They've been evicted and so on. And this is their last holdout. Well, they're pushed right up against the freeway. And then you go much further, you'd have to be treading water.
San Francisco often feels like a place that is capitalism gone wild, really gross wealth inequality, income inequality, homelessness issues that persist, but also like connected to that is not really having a path out of that because of the unaffordability of housing locally. We have 75 billionaires in the Bay Area, any one of whom could write a check and fund housing for everyone in San Francisco who's homeless. And they wouldn't even notice their bank account, right? I mean, it wouldn't change their quality of life one bit, right?
Historically, San Francisco has a reputation for its progressive politics, for social equity, and yet the homelessness problem continues to grow compared to a lot of other American cities. What's gone wrong here and in California cities in general compared to the rest of the country?
First and foremost, the homelessness crisis in San Francisco is driven by exorbitant housing costs and a refusal to scale up social housing or other forms of affordable housing so that people have a pathway out of homelessness. A lot of times people are looking at homelessness issues, they see the visible side of homelessness. So they see people experiencing drug addiction, mental health trauma and crisis on the streets. I think often what's underestimated is how much of that results from being homeless. In my experience, as a former tenant rights lawyer who's defended against thousands of evictions, worked to pass a right to counsel in San Francisco to prevent evictions. I mean, I've seen people who are stably housed who lose their homes and then go into a spiral because they're living on the streets.
What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions about homelessness? Having been homeless yourself, what do you think people don't understand?
Well, people assume that all homeless people are crazy or drug addicts or both. And there's an individual story behind every individual. And it's primarily my story. Combination of no family support, poor planning, bad luck, and I ran out of money. So I wound up on the street.
In the early 1980s, San Francisco native Joe Wilson became homeless. Today, Wilson is the director of Hospitality House, a community center and shelter in the Tenderloin, ground zero of the city's homelessness and addiction crises.
Over the course of a year, 15,000 people come through Hospitality House. We have an employment program designed to reconnect folks back to the workplace. We find 250 people gainful employment. We have 400 people participating in one or more civic engagement activities. We have 10,000 people coming through both of our self-help centers, trying to, getting reconnected to something to take that first major step for themselves. I can tell you the personal experience with homelessness, that is the hardest obstacle to overcome. The power and the belief in yourself when you've lost everything around you, all the trappings of identity, to find that core of belief in yourself that you still matter is challenging. What helped me more than anything else are people caring about me. The staff there at the shelter. I made eye contact with one of the workers, one of the staff at the shelter. He sent me out on one of my first paying jobs when I was homeless. The first paycheck I got in the mail, I used Hospitality House's mailing address, and I can still put myself in the middle of that drop-in center floor, holding the envelope with my name on it. When I'd lost nearly everything else, when I held on to my name, someone had found me. Had I been a drug user when I was on the street, everything would have been harder. Everything would have taken longer. And so I'm feeling pretty good that, I didn't have a habit, because I'm not sure where I'd be.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Hood. Did 34 years in prison straight.
Today, at Hospitality House, Wilson is trying to offer the same helping hand he received decades ago. Every few weeks, the organization brings together formerly incarcerated residents to share their struggles and help link them up with services.
What we do here is get together with long-term offenders, lifers. They come here, right? We have different resources for them, jobs. The employment center come over, share about that, help them get their resumes. Anything that can help them with the reentry part. A lot of us was torn down as children. As adults, we was torn down. So we just building it back up. And a lot of our guys is in and out of here like right now.
Terrence Blake spent most of his life in prison. For the past 4 years, he's devoted himself to supporting fellow ex-convicts who want to straighten out their lives.
This guy was one of my colleagues, you guys, in prison. And when we was in prison, I was not a nice guy. So I showed him a lot of wrong things to do in prison, see. And I know when he first got out, I would write him when I got out of prison, and I would tell him all the changes that I made. So when he got out, all the wrong things I showed him today, 2023, I'm showing him the right things. He's been out, he's working. I mean, we have a second chance at a first-class lifestyle, and it's about us.
Hospitality House would not exist as an organization were it not for forward-thinking, good-minded, good-hearted, compassionate community people. That is a fact. And there are no overnight solutions. We're actually okay with that. Our first best task, our mission, is the importance of community. Our theory of change is grounded in the power of community and the power of individuals to realize better in their lives and in their community.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good? Mm-hmm. Well, my name is Gigi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
A month after arriving in San Francisco in search of a better living situation, Avenue lives in a tent on the edge of the Tenderloin. She holds 2 college degrees and worked for many years as a social worker, helping people with drug addiction problems.
That was pretty tough on me because I'm a very empathetic person, and it was hard for me to have that barrier when you go home and not to take it home with me. So I tried working in, drug and alcohol counseling. I have a very long history in my family of drug addiction, alcohol addiction, as well as my own issues in the past. So that was very rewarding for me.
Avenue says she ended up on the street after losing her job coincided with a break-in where all of her personal documents were stolen.
I mean, it's what, $2,000 plus to get a studio here? I mean, that was a house payment for me back in Nebraska. So it's impossible for some people who make minimum wage to live here. So a lot of people don't realize that, there are normal, healthy, nice people who are homeless that aren't drug addicts. They just can't make ends meet.
Are you sober right now?
Me, I am trying to be, yes. I've relapsed, and I've gotten, I've been weaning slowly off, so.
These streets tend to eat people up. I mean, the longer you're out here, anything can happen. You could slide into drug addiction. How much of a sense of urgency do you feel to get out of here before you get pulled down even deeper?
Quite a bit. I can see how it can happen. I am afraid something might happen to me. I am afraid that there are those fears that I won't be able to get out of this, and it's a daily fear that does, put some strain on me. It's overwhelming, definitely.